us to begin with the session of the day for the Police Portfolio Committee. Firstly, before I kick off with the relevant opening remarks and apologies, etc., I would just like to ask Bob Balwa to confirm that we have quorum. Thank you, Bob Balwa. I received your message as well, confirming that we do have quorum. We're struggling, you're not very audible, but I did receive your message. I would then like to ask if Bob Balwa, if you can just flight the agenda for us. There we go. Colleagues, on the agenda today, we are specifically focusing on the gang-related violence inquiry, the terms of reference of that. But then also, we will receive a preliminary briefing by the South African Police Service on interventions to combat gang-related violence. I would like to ask if there's a possibility whether the committee would agree that we swap those two around. The reason being that we can then allow the SAPS to do the presentation for us and give us the briefing where we will be able to also have short engagement and questions for clarity. Remember, this is a preliminary briefing before our own inquiry starts, after which we can then, as a committee, deliberate on the terms of reference for the actual gang inquiry. When or during that time, we can then release the department, as I don't think they need to be part, even though they are more than welcome to stay, but they do not need to be part of the discussion regarding the terms of reference. May I have an indication whether that is okay and if we can move for the adoption of the agenda? Honourable Schikkerling.
Good morning to you, Chairperson, to the members of the committee, to the Minister, the Deputy Ministers, and all of the SAPS members on the Zoom today. I hereby move for the adoption with the change that you have suggested. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. Honourable Barnard.
Good morning to you all. If I may second that, please.
Thank you, Honourable Barnard. Welcome back as well from the travels. If I then may say that we will just want to hear from Bob Balwa. Do you have an indication after we've now adopted the agenda? Bob Balwa, do you have an indication of apologies for today?
Yes, Chair, I did receive the apologies from Honorable Chabane will join the meeting later. The Minister will not be able to attend a meeting due to a cabinet meeting. Deputy Minister Boshelo is requesting to leave the meeting early, and Honorable Breitenbach, she's out of the country. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Bob Balwa. Apologies are noted. I'm then going to move to the opening remarks for today, just to give some context regarding the beginning. It's actually still a preliminary beginning to the gang violence inquiry, but just to do some groundwork or laying the foundation. We all know that gang-related violence remains a very persistent and deeply entrenched challenge within our policing environment, particularly in certain areas such as in the Western Cape. Obviously, too, we know that there are other areas too where this is a significant problem, and where communities continue to bear the brunt of organized criminal activity. It's entrenched drug economies and the recurring cycles of violence that even in the past month, with the deployment of the SNDF in the large majority of areas, we haven't actually seen any decrease in gang violence. And the conditions thus continue to undermine community safety, It places significant pressure on policing resources, and it further erodes public confidence in the criminal justice system. And it's therefore necessary that the committee undertakes a very focused and structured inquiry into the said matter. In this regard, the terms of reference that we will be hearing today, that Nicolette will later present to us, have been considered, revised, refined, and we would like to make sure that we take into account the inputs and comments received from all of our members in the committee. And the intention has been to ensure greater clarity in the scope, alignment with the committee's mandate, and a more practical and implementable approach to the inquiry. Colleagues will also be aware that the work of the ad hoc committee has had a significant impact on the committee's program, which in turn affects the timeliness initially envisaged for this inquiry. And importantly, the current reporting deadline of 30 June 2026 is set by resolution of the House, and the committee remains bound by that resolution unless it is formally amended. The committee is therefore required to decide whether it will table a request to the House to extend the reporting deadline to 30 September of 2026. At the same time, the committee may proceed with the considerations of the terms of reference on the understanding that the timeframe reflected therein can be amended, subject to the House approving such an extension, of course. The final reporting of the inquiry will accordingly reflect that an extension to the reporting deadline was granted. The matter before us today, therefore, is whether the committee will proceed with the terms of reference as refined, while also taking a decision on the tabling of a resolution to amend the reporting deadline, and whether the members are satisfied that this approach will allow for a credible and properly sequenced inquiry. So if I may already ask the honourable members to give an indication of whether they are comfortable or would move to support for us to table a resolution to amend the reporting deadline. And once we've done that, we can then move to the presentation by the department, after which we would then be able to have a discussion on the terms of reference. Honourable members. Honourable Schikkerling.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think due to the nature of this investigation that we're doing, or what this whole process that we are following, and the amount of people that are affected daily and losing their lives through gang violence, not only in the Western Cape, but in the Eastern Cape and Gauteng too, I think it is important for us then to approve the extension to the end of September and to carry on as per your recommendation earlier on. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. Honourable Kohler Barnard.
Chairperson, just listening to Honourable Schikkerling, please, I'm from KwaZulu-Natal, and I would ask that the investigation absolutely includes areas of eThekwini, Sydenham, Wentworth, where gang violence is endemic, and it cannot be ignored. I've raised it many, many times. So please, that must be part of the outline. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Kohler Barnard. Colleagues, with that, can I have a second to the move that we bring a resolution to extend the inquiry's deadline? Honourable Kohler Barnard.
I second that.
Thank you, Honourable Kohler Barnard. That is then approved and granted. I would then like to welcome and open the floor for the introduction by Deputy Minister Matale and Deputy Minister Boshielo, and also welcome the Acting National Commissioner, General Dumpane, to maybe start with the presentation by the SAPS and department, and then we can further engage in discussion. And I would appreciate DM Matale, if through yourself and the acting national commissioner, if you would also then just facilitate who will be presenting, and obviously hand over to them when the presentation must begin. DM Matale.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to you and the committee. We appreciate the opportunity you have given us to appear this morning so that we take the committee on board with regard to what we are doing in the identified 4 provinces on the fight against organized crime and gangsterism. With me, I'm with DM Bushielo and the Acting National Commissioner, Lieutenant General Dimpani, and the police leadership relevant to the issues at hand. I will allow DM Bushielo to make a comment because she will leave earlier, and thereafter ask General Dimpani to lead us in the presentation through you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Matali. Good morning to you. Good morning to Chairperson, and good morning to the Acting National Commissioner, General Dimpani, and all colleagues, honorable members on the platform. I think as dear Matali have said, you know, always when you call us, we put everything aside and make sure that we are available so that we can be able to account to you. I'm going to be off later in a flight to Cape Town. So, but as soon as I'll be able to join again. Thank you very much, dear Matali.
General Dimpani.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to the Chairperson, the honorable committee members, the Deputy Ministers, Deputy Minister Matale, Deputy Minister Dr. Bushielo, the SAPS leadership. We are ready to present, Chair. We have the leadership of the SAPS, including the DPCI, the Deputy National Commissioners, and we have also taken a liberty to invite the 4 provinces, Western Cape, Gauteng, and Eastern Cape. They are in the meeting. We also have KZN, General Mkwanazi in the meeting. Should there be questions that are more relevant to these provinces? We have prepared slides, Chair, that will give a preliminary briefing in relation to the gang-related or interventions to combat gang-related violence. We have also included a slide that will touch on briefly on the SNDF deployment, joint deployment with SAPS. I will not waste time, Chair. General Rabi will take the committee through this preliminary briefing. With your permission, Chair, I will hand over to General Rabi. General Rabi.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson, honourable members of the committee, the Honourable Deputy Ministers, the Acting National Commissioner and the senior representatives of SAPS. Chairperson, may I confirm that the presentation is visible and that everybody can see it?
Yes, thank you, General Robbie.
Chairperson, thank you. The briefing that we will be doing today deals with the SAPS interventions that are aimed at combating gang-related violence. And the emphasis throughout is on how these interventions are structured, resourced and coordinated rather than isolated operations. It also reflects SAP's understanding that gang violence must be addressed as a part of a broader organized crime environment, not as a standalone phenomenon. In terms of slide number 2, the table of content or the structure of the presentation, we will begin by setting out the purpose and context of the presentation. We then have 3 parts, part A, B, and C in the presentation. Part A will focus on SAPS itself, our resourcing profile, operational capacity, specialized units that are tasked with addressing gang-related violence. In Part B, we will move beyond SAPS alone and look at a longer-term strategic planning that includes integration, intelligence-led approaches, and intergovernmental coordination. And then finally, in Part C, that will address the deployment of the SANDF, which the committee has previously raised, including the legal framework, the nature of support that is being provided, and what is realistically to be expected in terms of impact. In terms of the purpose of the presentation, the intention of this presentation, Honourable Chairperson, is to provide a preliminary but consolidated briefing across several interlinked areas. These includes how integrated current interventions are, the role intelligence plays in shaping operations, and the current resourcing and operational capacity of SAPS. It also looks at coordination mechanisms across government, the longer-term strategic approach to gang-related violence and the role of the SNDF, and it provides an overview of how the SAPS is currently being configured in terms of responding how gang violence and organized crime is evolving. Going to the introduction, the first slide, this is actually very important in looking at the crime landscape context because it frames gang violence within South Africa's broader crime landscape. Gang-related violence intersects with a range of serious crimes that includes drugs, firearm, extortion, transport-related violence, hijacking, and organized crime syndicates. The key implication is that criminal networks diversify and operate across multiple crime types at the same time, and that experience has shown that when policing responses focus narrowly on individual crime categories, impact is limited. And this is why an integrated and holistic approach aimed at disrupting entire criminal ecosystems is necessary. Gang violence and the organized crime dynamics. Gang violence, as Honourable Chairperson has indicated, has a direct governance implication in affected communities. In certain areas, gangs actively undermine the authority of the state and integrity of the criminal justice system. In provinces such as the Western Cape, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Eastern Cape, we see gangs evolving into structured criminal organized crime enterprises with both national and international linkages. This relationship between gangs and organized crime syndicates increases their access to resources, firearms, and logistical capacity, leading to more coordinated and more violent activity. Looking at gangsterism and the SAPS response, gangsterism manifests in multiple ways through shootings, intimidation, targeted killings, prison-based influence, and organized criminal activity. What is of particular concern is the corporatization of gangs, operating as part of organized syndicates and establishing parallel criminal economies. Violence is used not only against rivals, but also to control businesses, communities, and criminal markets. An emerging trend highlighted here is the utilization of gangs for contract killings in sectors such as taxis, construction, and politics. It is then within this context that the SAPS initiated targeted interventions, including the establishment of anti-gang units from 2019 onwards. Part A of the presentation, the focus now shifts to the SAPS resourcing and operational capacity. SAPS resourcing and operational capacity. Chairperson, Honourable Chairperson, this slide explains how the SAPS has approached resourcing anti-gang units in a structured manner. A comprehensive plan is currently under consideration for the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and the Western Cape, and includes personnel, asset accommodation, funding, and training. What is of crucial importance is that this plan is being assessed within the medium-term expenditure framework to ensure affordability and fiscal sustainability over the medium-term expenditure framework period. A dedicated skills enhancement plan has also been improved to ensure that members deployed in these units have the specialized competencies that are required. As far as the physical resources are concerned, beyond human resources, physical capability is critical. The physical resourcing plan provides for mobility, technology accommodation, as well as essential equipment aligned to intelligence-led operation. The estimated cost of approximately 750 million reflects a consolidated national assessment that is currently in consideration, and implementation is deliberately phased in terms of the fiscal requirement in phases and prioritized based on the threat levels, readiness, and available funding, while we recognize the applicable fiscal constraints. The operational mandate of the gang units. The anti-gang units, it operates across two complementary functions. It's basically investigation capabilities and prevention capabilities. On the detective side or the investigative side, the focus is on investigating gang structures, leadership, economic activities, and serious violent crimes across POCA-based procedural guided investigations. On the visible policing side, it plays a prevention and stabilization role, particularly around targeted operation, firearms control, and engagement with communities. These functions are supported through collaboration with crime intelligence, the DPCI Forensic Services, and the National Prosecuting Authority. Moving to part B of the presentation, in part B, we move from operational capacity to longer-term strategic planning. The whole of government approach in terms of the ICBPS, the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy, Honourable Chairperson, provides the overarching framework for a coordinated state response. It recognizes that crime arises from interrelated social, economic, and political factors, and that safety outcomes cannot be delivered by the South African Police Service alone. The strategy therefore aligns multiple national frameworks as it is reflected on the slides, ensuring that anti-gang interventions are embedded within broader government planning processes. National Organised Crime Combating Model. This model is established to address the shortcomings of fragmented interventions. The National Organised Crime Combating Group, or the NOCCG, was established as a national intelligence-led and prosecution-guided intervention mechanism. It is national in nature, intelligence-led and prosecution-guided with integrated command and control under the NAJOINS. The focus of this is on dismantling organized crime networks in a systemic manner by targeting leadership, finances, enablers, and the structures that are embedded in organized crime. The strategic objectives are highlighted. In short, they collectively describe the intended outcome of the model. They span leadership neutralization, capability disruption, economic dismantling, coordinated efforts across levels of government, and stronger prosecution outcomes. So the overall aim of the model that has been implemented is sustained impact rather than just short-term disruption. If I may, Chairperson, just highlight some of the descriptions under the objectives as they are highlighted. In terms of the organized crime leadership, the target will be on syndicate leaders, organizers, and key facilitators. And the intention is to prevent the reorganization, succession, and regeneration of criminal networks. The disruption of criminal capability to remove the resources that they have access to, including your illegal firearms and communication capabilities, and also targeting enablers, facilitators, and support networks that allows these networks to operate. Collapsing the criminal economies is to disrupt illicit financial flows, extortion, and the revenue streams that the gangs use through the application of POCA provisions and asset forfeiture mechanisms. In terms of the integrated national and provincial efforts, it is a known fact that we will be presenting today that there are various SAPS capabilities involved in this, and there is a number of external partners that we will highlight later on in terms of the ICVPS, and that we ensure that we have a unified command structure and effective information sharing. Strengthening prosecution outcomes is to make sure that we build court-ready syndicate-based cases through procedural guided investigation, enabling successful convictions and long-term incapacitation of offenders, and reducing the impact of organized crime on communities in terms of the violence, intimidation, and economic harm that it causes, and stabilize affected communities and critical sectors. The next slide gives an indication of how we classify the criminal business enterprise structure. There is a framework that is used for this purpose. It's broken into a 5-tier hierarchy that ranges from precinct or local level gangs to international enterprises. And this is done through a value chain analysis that is conducted as it is reflected in the blue block on the left-hand side, where we look at the scope and extent of the group, the size, the sophistication of the operation, the national interest, the type and nature and number of serious offences, monetary value that is involved, the extent of illicit laundering, public impact and interest, and complexity of investigation. So considering these factors, the specific criminal enterprises will then be classified in terms of level 1 to level 5, where, as I indicated, level 1, as it is illustrated on the pyramid on the right-hand side, represents your local level groups. Level 2 that reflects your groups that operates across station boundaries. Level 3 where you have a provincial scope, and then we start moving levels 4 and 5 into a national and international scope. The current investigation responsibilities, as far as these are concerned, levels 1 to 3 are being dealt with by organized crime capabilities within the detective service environment, while the DPCI focuses on levels 3 to 5, as it is illustrated on the slide. Chairperson, the next slide just illustrates the different tiers that are involved, as I already explained, and how we respond to that. On the left-hand side, we've classified it into 3 tiers, where you have your base tier that is more localized in terms of station areas. So it's smaller gangs and immediate inter-gang violence within specific areas. The middle tier, we look at the local gang leaders, HU managers, leadership figures, and incidents that are spanning across multiple station jurisdictions. And the top tier represents your transnational syndicates and prominent leaders, where we have the specific dedicated intervention groups that are dealing with these identified targets. So that is then aligned. I've already started talking to the right-hand side, where there's a 3-tier approach in terms of responding to the types of criminal organizations and gangs that are being identified, where you have a role that is being played by the local police stations in terms of gang-related activities that are taking place in their precincts, while the anti-gang units focuses on cross-border activities where they manage local leaders and cross-station incidents, and the intervention groups that are part of the structure that I've explained earlier, where the DPCI also plays a very prominent role, where they target prominent leadership figures that falls within the top tier of transnational syndicates, as it is reflected on the slide. In terms of the drivers of gang escalation, we have 2 key issues: community and resource support, where gang gains stature by garnering community support and enhancing their access to commodities, and as well as their association with corrupt government officials that allow gang structures to escalate in power, as it was illustrated in this and the previous slide. Then the next slide talks to the coordinated and intergovernmental support. The stakeholder matrix, as it is reflected, Chairperson, at the bottom of the slide, reflects the breadth of coordination that requires law enforcement, justice, revenue, border management, and social sectors and community structures to be involved. And this integration is essential to closing systemic gaps that the organized crime structures exploits. So we have listed the stakeholders in the slide. I'm not going to read through all of them. I think it is clear from the slide that there are various government entities as well as non-governmental entities and communities that are involved and that plays a role in combating gang violence as well as the organized crime phenomenon. In terms of the course of action to deal with combat crime, to combat gang violence, there's the total approach is underpinned by 5 key pillars. That is integrated intelligence, multi-agency cooperation, flexible task teams, and sustained community engagement. These are the key requirements to address these gang-related violence and organized crime successfully. There is a need for access to information through advanced data analysis to establish your linkages between gangs, organized crime syndicates, and criminal markets. As I indicated in the previous slide, there is also, secondly, a requirement for multi-agency cooperation that involves the various stakeholders that has been identified. But just to highlight some of them again, the SAPS, the DPCI, your Metro Police, the NPA, the State Security Agency, the AFU, CIRA, and Border Management Authority. The third requirement or the key pillar is flexible, intelligence-driven task teams. It is essential, Chairperson, that we are able to deploy adaptable task teams that are capable of responding to overlapping and evolving crime threats and avoiding a silo-based interventions. It is a common known fact that your organized crime is evolving on a daily basis in terms of the ways that they are structured and operating, and it is important that the SAPS is able to respond to that in terms of adjusting our approach. Community partnerships is key to build trust, to address the root causes of gang involvement, and to enhance the flow of actionable information that can be used for proactive and reactive purpose. The main aim is sustainable impact, and what we are intending to do is to shift from a reactive, arrest-focused response toward a sustained disruption of gang structures and organized crime networks. Next slide is the National Organized Crime Interventions into Gang Violence and Extortion. Operation Ukubuza operationalizes this approach that we've just referred to, and from the 1st of April 2026, the SAPS deployed human and physical resources under this operation to specific highlighted areas or hotspot or areas that has been identified. And this is to address gang violence and extortion as an interconnected organized crime activities using intelligence, investigation, prosecution, and asset recovery in combination. Next slide talks to the extent to which current interventions are integrated and intelligence-led. Operation Lockdown 3 and Bailok are implemented under the Ukubuza framework. They combine intelligence-driven disruptions, investigations, and coordinated visible policing with institutional coordination at provincial level. So just briefly, it combines your intelligence-driven measures through parallel criminal investigations, where they include POCO-based investigations to disable and dismantle your organized criminal groups. And these interventions are designed, planned, and executed in coordination with all the stakeholders that are involved. A best practice that has been identified is the Provincial Joint Priority Committee in Cape Town that provides an institutional platform for coordination with provincial and local government structures that ensures alignment with broad initiatives that addresses gangsterism, etc. And this approach is progressively being extended to the other affected areas. As far as oversight and the oversight mechanism is concerned, Chairperson, the framework looks at criminal networks, enablers and corruption, disruption of activity, and the effectiveness of the criminal justice system, ensuring that assessment focuses on impact rather than volume of activity. So the 4 areas that are highlighted on the slide include your criminal actors and network. That is in terms of measuring what we achieve in terms of investigation, identification, and prosecution. In terms of your corruption and enablers, the identification, investigation, and prosecution of corrupt state actors and enablers. Also measuring performance in terms of disruption of criminal activity, in terms of the outcomes and the results of targeted and strategic interventions and prosecutions that are aimed at disrupting organized criminal activity. And then lastly, the criminal justice system effectiveness. It is not only about arresting, it's also about taking the arrested players or actors successfully through the criminal justice system in terms of quality investigations, positive prosecution outcomes, and systemic coordination within the criminal justice system itself. Moving to part C of the presentation, this talks to the deployment of the South African National Defence Force in support of the South African Police Service. This constitutionally authorized deployment is of the South African National Defence Force in cooperation with the South African Police Service constitutes a strategic intervention that to enable force multiplication, territorial stabilization, and sustained disruption of organized crime networks, aimed at restoring the rule of law, reducing serious and violent crime, and protecting national resources, and enabling long-term security and socio-economic resilience. So this joint deployment aims to, as I've indicated, stabilize the priority crime hotspot areas, ensuring that we are disrupting the organized crime groups that are involved in gang violence, restoring law, order and peace and community safety in those areas that are being affected, reducing the levels of serious and violent crimes in those areas, and reclaiming territory controlled by criminal networks and assert the authority of the state. The committee also requested feedback on the legal and operational framework. This deployment of the South African National Defence Force, Honourable Chairperson, is authorized under the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And in accordance with these provisions, the SNDF is authorized by the President via a presidential minute for service in cooperation with the South African Police Service to prevent and combat crime and to maintain and preserve law and order within the Republic of South Africa. In addition to what I've mentioned, the Section 19(3)(c)(2) of the Defence Act, as amended, states as follows: service in cooperation with the South African Police Service must be performed in accordance with such guidelines. Cooperation regarding the cooperation between the SAPS and the SANDF, and the coordination of command and control over members of the SANDF and SAPS as the chief of the SANDF and the National Commissioner may determine. The operational framework in terms of which a deployment is prescribed is referenced by NATJOIN's instruction that was issued in 2026, instruction number 16. And just highlighting again that this deployment aims at restoring law and order, etc., the specific outcomes that I've highlighted in the previous slide. The scope, duration, and impact of the SAPS SANDF deployments. Chairperson, the South African National Defence Force has been deployed in cooperation with SAPS to support operations aimed at combating gangsterism and illegal mining in identified areas, and this was based on a national threat and risk assessment that has been conducted. This deployment is per the authorized timelines, but it's also subject to ongoing review and oversight to determine impact and sustainability over the period that this deployment will take place. The SNDF provides a supportive capability to SAPS in terms of operation, enhancing visibility, stabilization and operational capacity, while the NAT joins retains overall command and responsibility for law enforcement activity. Given the recent commencement of deployments in certain areas, at this point in time, it is too early to come to a definitive conclusion in terms of impact, but however, there are indications that there is reduction in specific violent crime categories within the operational footprint that is being covered by SNDF and the South African Police Service. But there will be continuous monitoring and evaluation that are in place to assess the effectiveness of the deployments and operations, to inform adjustments that needs to be made, and to guide future decision making in terms of deployments and responses to these gang-related activities and the organized crime phenomenon. Chairperson, that concludes the presentation from our side. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As General Ravi indicates, that concludes our presentation. I just want to highlight this matter so that committee members, they should not ask a question around that. Where we are talking of the legal and operational framework of these deployments. I think bullet point number 2, sub-bullet point number 3, where we are talking of coordination of command over and control of members of the South African National Defence Force and SAPS as the Chief of the South African National Defence Force and the Acting National Commissioner of the South African Police Service may determine, just as a reflection of what is currently prevailing, and it's an omission that we should have picked up and corrected when we came to appear before you, and our apologies for that oversight on our part. Thank you, Chair. That concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much, DM. Thank you to General Rabi for the presentation and for the introductory remarks by General Dimpane. I am going to open the floor for members to engage with questions. I would just like to ask members to please remember that this is really a focus for questions on clarity. Remember that it's not necessarily a scrutinizing type of engagement. So if I may then also ask Babalwa to just remove the presentation or whomever is flighting it, in order for us to, that I can just see all the members' hands. I've already noted the hand of the Honourable Skosana, followed by the Honourable Matthys. I've noted the Honourable Kola Barnard, Honourable Paulson, Honourable Ghana, Honourable Schikkeling and Mokoena.
Please note me, Chair. Please note me, Chair.
Honourable Sokopo, I got you. I just want to check if I've missed anyone. Honourable Muela, I've got you as well. I would like to then start with the Honourable Skosana. Honourable Skosana, I'm going to run the timer. You know the drill. It's 5 minutes. Please make sure that it is an answerable amount of questions. I will start it now. Honourable Skosana, you're welcome.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to colleagues and the Deputy Minister, the acting NATCOM, and everyone who's here. I just wanted clarity first before I ask any questions. If I heard well, the Deputy Minister said that we should not ask questions. I just want clarity on that about the issue, the deployment, because I personally went to the Western Cape where the soldiers are deployed, where we are working jointly. So I'm not sure which question we should not ask.
Honorable Skosana, it was relating to a very specific point. DM Matale, if you would just like to clarify again for the Honorable Skosana.
No, thank you, Chair. I didn't say members must not ask questions. I was talking to the presentation where we are talking of the legal framework, and we are saying that the command and control is the Chief of Defense and the National Commissioner. And we know that currently the command of the South African Police is the acting National Commissioner. So I just wanted to correct that so that there is no misunderstanding of what the presentation is saying. Otherwise, members can ask any question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I understand now. The presentation was very long, and I must say, and very detailed. However, the questions which one has to ask in terms of what was presented before us, I'm not sure whether it's perhaps the right platform here to ask this, but I think I have to ask it now here, that the previous successes where there was a joint working relationship, between ourselves and the South African National Defence Force. What successes did we achieve, and what the failures of what we wanted to achieve? Not necessarily only the COVID-19, because my worry, in these matters is that after the period which the president has given us, that we have to go to the Western Cape and make sure that this gang violence is eliminated. The after effects of it, previously, what have we learned, for us to avoid what happened before, besides the COVID-19, where there was a joint working relationship between SAPS and South African National Defence Force. I just wanted to find out that. Otherwise, I'll come later, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Skosana. I then move to the Honourable Matthys.
Unmuted. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members, to our deputy ministers and to our SAPS officials. We appreciate the presentation. What I have found that is missing is that we haven't addressed the issue of SAPS members being involved. And how are we going to do it? I mean, it's a fact that there's no criminality that flourishes in any country in the entire world without criminal justice members being involved in it. And we've seen this both in the commission and in the ad hoc committee, but I'm saying it also starts off right at the police station level, where organized crime, or even just gangsterism, rather, as we are dealing with it, is flourishing because of links and protection that they are receiving, both from whether it's the South African Police Services, whether when it's go to court, the National Prosecuting Agency, and whether when the matter is actually in court, whether it's the magistrates or the judiciary. So can we speak to what do we have in place to be able to deal with that? Because even if we deal with one set of gangs, another is going to enter, as long as we are having a system that is supposed to be protecting citizens, that's supposed to be dealing with violence, is corrupt in and of itself. So I think IPID really should have been part of this. and perhaps the presentation is absent of it because you don't really want to show all your cards, but I need to understand, why is that not addressed in particular? What are we doing about the members in our criminal justice system that are aiding, abetting, and sometimes even leading these gangs? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Matthys. Honourable Matthys, you're getting quicker and quicker with the questions. Then move to the Honourable Kola Barnard.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, a couple from me, and it certainly won't take 5 minutes. Please fill me in on the level of investigation into international crime syndicate links, and your workings with, I presume, Interpol and others. For example, on this entire, and if I may steal your excellent phrase, a criminal ecosystem. I certainly believe we need to work on the premise that these syndicates are not merely national, may well be part of a global process and receive instructions perhaps from other countries. Now, how far advanced are we in those investigations? In a particular presentation I attended at the IPU, it was highlighted that globally the syndicates out-equip, for example, our SAPS, all law enforcement, national law enforcement agencies across the board. They outshoot, outdrive, outfly us, and they certainly recognize no borders. So how are you intending, or do you intend, to counteract that? Syndicates flying in under the radar, for example, to drop drugs, to pick up bodies. What is the plan? Then your prosecution-driven cases. Finally, we're taken back to the Scorpions era, where they are prosecution-driven. This, of course, increases the successful prosecution levels. Is that working hand in hand with the IDAC, Investigating Directorate Against Corruption? I presume it is, but I'd just like clarity on that. I think that's pretty much why they were established. And are you receiving sufficient analysis? See, you are reliant on analysis from a number of stakeholders. Are you receiving sufficient from the State Security Agency for your needs? And if I could ask for input on the status of specifically on the status of the gangs in KwaZulu-Natal. eThekwini is the hotspot. I receive regular reports from various councillors on assassinations. Sydenham seems to be a hotspot again, since the major issues caused when the Cape Townians tried to take over the local gangs business. That then died away, but it seems to be back. And I've always been of the opinion that the gang issues there have been treated as something of a smaller issue by the SAPS. Although we've appealed for assistance in this regard for countless years, many, many years, it just hasn't been forthcoming. There are a lot of claims that the local police stations are involved, and so backpedal when it comes to investigation. So I would like an update on that specifically. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Kola Barnard. I then move to the Honourable Paulson. Welcome, Honourable Paulson. It's good to have you with us.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, colleagues. And good morning, DM, and also Lieutenant General Rabi. And thank you very much for the presentation. Chairperson, I'm going to try and be as brief as I possibly can. I don't know if it's possible. I think, you know, the first anti-gang unit was established in 2019, and this presentation indicates that the comprehensive plan for resourcing these units in the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and Western Cape is still under consideration for implementation. So I think, I don't know what the status is in terms of Treasury, but in terms of the strategy, it says the resource requirements is 750 million. So what happens if Treasury determines that 750 million is not fiscally sustainable within the current medium-term expenditure framework? And then also, in the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy, you cite addressing the social, economic, and political factors of crime. And in the stakeholder matrix, we list various departments: social development, basic education, human settlements. And I don't know if they are present in the meeting. And also the core of the presentation remains heavily focused on traditional police actions like Operation Ukubusa, Operation Lockdown 3. And there's no detail on how SAPS, non-SAPS departments are going to be held accountable for their safety outcomes. And I think, we are only addressing here the symptoms of far deeper issues. And how will we assess, or what will be the measurable interventions for departments of human settlements, basic education, social development, in terms of how they lack resources or support in vulnerable communities where these gang activities are prevalent. And then the last question, Chairperson, SAPS states that gangs are increasingly evolving into organized criminal syndicates and linked to national and international syndicates. So which syndicates have been identified, and what measurable progress has been made to dismantle them? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Paulson. I'm going to give the next opportunity to Honourable Garner. Then I will hand over to SAPS for first round of response. Then I'm going to come back to the rest of the questions. I'm just breaking it up like that so that we make sure that all of the questions are answered of the honourable members and that we don't miss out on anything. Honourable Dereko, I just want to confirm that I've also seen your hand go up. And I have noted that, and I will give you the relevant opportunity to Honourable Garner.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. Maybe let me continue where Honourable Paulson kind of ended. So there's in terms of the resourcing needs. There's what the presentation puts as the figure there, percentage. One would be interested to know what is the current capacity and whether we do have and I'm talking about especially on the detective side, because to crack gangs, yes, you have visible policing that will stop things or crime that will ordinarily be committed, but the bulk of the work is done by the detectives, because to crack this kind of networks, it needs dedicated people who work on these 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week trying to crack them. So what is the current capacity, and whether from with the kind of work that has been done, the analysis, are we dealing with provincial gangs, as in like those that are, I think slide 14 puts them at level 3, or we actually dealing with like in the pyramid, the top, the national kind of gangs or gangs that have got footprints across multiple provinces, as the second question. And if indeed we are dealing with the answer, and the reason I asked this, Chair, is because in the last, including the work that was done by the ad hoc committee, the continuing work that's done by the Madlanga Commission, so there's a reference to the Big Five in terms of networks where in the work of the analysis of the South African Police Service are we placing these gangs that also necessitated the deployment of the South African National Defence Force? And I think one of the other concerns that were raised in that regard, Chair, was that you could very well have a situation where the gangs that will operate in the Western Cape kind of move to another province, because they might very well have links in the other provinces. Just maybe to give a bit of texture to say what is it that we are dealing with here? Is it localized gangs that then terrorize the municipality or a section, a region in the municipality? And the last one, Chair, what we do know is that at least from the international gangs that some of local ones will copy from, they also get involved in quote unquote businesses that look legitimate. What kind of businesses these gangs that the team is eyeing or investigating or doing work on, are they involved in? Like, is it the nightclubs? Is it real estate? Is it hotels, restaurants? What kind of legitimate business do they use to actually wash the money or launder the money that they make out of these criminal acts? Maybe a bit of texture on that, Chair, will assist greatly. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honourable Ghana. I've noted also the hand of the Honourable Reverend Meshwe. Reverend Meshwe, I'll give you the opportunity in the next round as well. I would like to hand over back to DM Matale and General Dimpane for the relevant response.
Thank you very much. I will allow through you, General Dimpane, and the team to respond to the questions. Over to you, General Dimpane, through you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, there was a question in terms of previous coordination between ourselves and SNDF and what lessons have we learned. That particular analysis and a report can be submitted, but I would say overall, perhaps the lesson that we have learned is that there ought to be better coordination. Hence, this organized crime priority, as well as organized crime strategy, to ensure that there is better coordination and better monitoring in terms of this, and better assessment of the impact that these coordinations bring to the table. Those are the lessons that perhaps we have learned. Hence, we do have this organized crime strategy and have elevated this as a priority. Chair, there were issues on resources. We do have a plan, Chair, that we have put in place, realizing that this, for us to be able to show an impact, we can rely on reactive operations. At the exit of these operations, we have to have a sustainability plan. So we have deliberately put together this plan in terms of how do we then resource and honestly assessing the current status of these anti-gang units. So there is a plan in place. We are considering it within the current existing resources that we have as a department. There's no new money, there's no additional funding. So we are taking deliberate decisions to say we need to prioritize this within the existing resources. So of course, we will be looking into other funding mechanisms such as CARA. This has been spoken about. And we have to ensure that within the existing resources, we prioritize these units. At the exit of these stabilization operations, they have to be units that are functional, units that are deliberately resourced, that we can be able to ensure that we normalize and we sustain this. So we are assessing this within the current existing resource framework that we have. There's no new money, but it is a management deliberate decision that we need to take to ensure that we resource these anti-gang units to the capacity that is expected. We will also be relying on these additional resource frameworks such as CARA funding. Then I will request General Sintumule to touch on all the issues that relates to the detectives, and then General Nkosi on the DPCI. What about the involvement of our members? What are we doing about that? And I do have General Mkonazi in the meeting as well. He will touch on the KZN gang status in KZN and other issues that are related. We do realize, Honorable Chair and committee members, that this is a priority and we need to employ unconventional methods. Hence, we have also elevated General Mkonazi side to ensure that this strategy is implemented, we normalize, and we are able to then can measure impact and put systems in place to normalize this situation going forward. I will start with General Sintumule Chair, and then General Nkosi, then General Mkonazi on some of the issues in this regard, in that order, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, may I proceed?
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning to the Chairperson, members of the Portfolio Committee, DM Matale, DM Dr. Bushielo, Acting National Commissioner, the Acting Head of the DPCI, the DMCs, PCs, and all colleagues on the platform. I am going to start with the question relating to questions asked by Honorable Kola Barnett relating to the pursuance of your PGI, whether we work with the NPA. And definitely, if you look at the matrix as General Ravi has presented, Honorable Kola Barnett, we actually are reliant on guidance by the NPA in its entirety, not necessarily any segment. Like, for example, we work with the SCCU, we work with organized crime and other relevant environments within the NPA. In terms of our posture to international syndicates and how we deal with the interpolation of the gangs beyond the borders of South Africa, numerous mechanisms have been put in place, and these work through Interpol, and these include what we term as your trilateral planning cell. That is a cooperation mechanism between Tanzania, South Africa, and Mozambique. It has been extended to include other countries like Lesotho, Swaziland, Angola. And in these mechanisms, then we do joint targeting for international syndicates operating within our borders. But also we look at your regional cooperation with other like-minded structures. In this regard, we have got our law enforcement partners internationally, including the DEA, and also we do conduct joint bilateral operations. We do have successes in this regard, Honorable Kola Barnett. I think recently, if you have seen in the media, we've had a number of our suspects who are international, who actually have been extradited back to their countries to go and face the arm of the law because of their involvement in your international organized crime. If I may be allowed then to move to the questions of Honorable Paulson. Honorable Paulson, we might not divulge here the names of the gangs that we have prioritized. However, if you look at the project as presented, we have prioritized gangs, particularly in the Cape Metropole, as well as in the Eastern Cape. These gangs mostly are localized, Honorable Ghana, and they operate intra-provincial, including prison gangs. Based on our analogy and what General Rabi presented, we have clustered them in terms of the levels, and they have been profiled, including state actors, Honorable Matheus, who are involved in assisting and also being part of these gangs. So we have targeted them. They are projectized within both DPCI and the detectives, including crime intelligence, and we are addressing them as such. In relation to the capacity within detective services to deal with these cases, within your anti-gang unit, as General Rabi presented, we have got a multi-dimensional approach, and he spoke about the proactive and the reactive. Within reactive, we do have positions. And I must say here, Honorable Ghana, that the province that is actually almost 100% capacitated, which also is based on the threat in that particular province, is the Western Cape. The detectives there, I think I wouldn't divide the number, but actually they are almost 100% capacitated, and they are also working on these cases. In terms of effectiveness, we do have cases in point where we have got successes. I think as recently as now in April, we also have recorded convictions in relation to gangs that have been arrested. If maybe the NASCOM can allow me, I'll stop here and I'll come back in the next round. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. We can take General Nkosi, DPCI.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. Greetings to all of you. As an addition from the perspective of the DPCI, as it was indicated in the criminal value chain, that our focus is mainly on the more serious or matters relating to gangs and associated criminal activities. In response to the question, I think it's a question. It's the question that came from Honorable Kola Barnard with regard to the international linked syndicates. I can just indicate that we do have matters, as an example, publicly now known, the drug laboratories which were dismantled in Groblersdal, which involved foreign nationals, and the one in Standerton, where drums and substances were found filled with drug-related chemicals. So we are in any way handling this matter with our counterparts through the auspices of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, which is an international collaboration forum coupled with Interpol and others, which are aligned to the conventions that regulate the international movement of chemicals, so that we are able to monitor and identify illegal substances that are ultimately then either used for the drugs. As far as the southern route, I think General Sintumule has touched on that. We have a trilateral planning cell known as the TPC, which is cooperation between us and Mozambique and Tanzania. Also, which is one way which the route is monitored as far as drugs are concerned, in particular heroin, which is mainly moved along those routes. So we are geared to deal with these matters, and most of the cases are still ongoing, the investigations. And finally, just to comment on the involvement of our members or members within the criminal justice cluster. When we conduct the project-driven investigations, there is also part of scoping and analysis of any associated risks and threats. So the involvement of members, as indicated, should be taken care of on a project-to-project, case-to-case basis, and it gets eliminated. But we note the question, and perhaps moving forward, we might consider also maybe just focusing precisely on enablers in that regard. I can just end the Acting National Commissioner from my side. Thank you.
Chair, we can take General Mkwanazi from KZN.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. Thank you, Acting National Commissioner, for the opportunity. Honorable Chair, in regard to the role that I'm assigned to do at the national level, as Gerald Nkosi was presenting. Part of our approach is to make sure that we involve and strengthen our counterintelligence as part of this deployment in order to look at the rogue elements in the main within the security cluster and the justice system as a whole, in order to cap the involvement of police officers in the rogue in the main. So that's what we're going to do. But I must say, honorable chair members, that as we are starting with this intervention, we did visit Cape Town and we did receive briefings in Cape Town, and we did highlight, observed some weaknesses in terms of the coordination of the involvement of the military deployment. And we still yet to get a briefing on Gauteng and other places. But we've had also a NICOC meeting where the chief of the army was present on Monday, and we did highlight on this, and they also shared some of their frustrations with regard to how we're coordinating the operation. So I'm still going to engage with Jarno Sikiti, and we relook at a more coordinated effort in terms of the involvement of the military in our operations. But by and large, majority of the things that have been presented are things that we are going to be working in line with as Gerard was presenting. In as far as what Honorable Koropanat was raising of Wentworth, Honorable Chair, the Honorable Member, Ms. Koropanat, led a delegation to visit Signem last year, October. And subsequent to that, there was a report that was presented and given to us, of which we had to respond on. And of all the items that I think focus areas, about 5 of them that the delegation attended to, it was just but one of the issues that was raised regarding the crime trend of Signem as a police station, whereby the gang seems to be a bit of a challenge. I can confirm that there might be mention of gangs in Signem, but ordinarily in KZN, we have in the past always been troubled by one district, eThekwini, and that eThekwini district in the main involves only 3 townships. It's Wentworth, Signem, as well as Newlands. But what we have seen in the past, it has always been the case, is that the gang problems and the gang fights has always been in Wentworth Township. And when there's fightings in Wentworth Townships, those Wentworth gangs will then run either to Signem or they run to Newlands. So that's what has been the issue. Yes, we acknowledge that we have made some arrests on some of the gangs from Western Cape that were trying to infiltrate Signem, and we're able to neutralize them. So I'll say, honorable chair members, with respect, that I think in the past couple of years, we haven't had gang issues in KZN in general. I think that was due to a success in terms of the police operations that neutralize most dangerous gangs that were involved in shootings in Signem and as well as in Wentworth in the main. But since then, we don't necessarily have much of the gang issues. However, there are still social issues that those townships are faced with, which the youth unemployed and some of them not going to school, that are going to be misbehaving, which is not unique to Signem, but is also applicable in other townships in the main. We are working in addressing all those. But in as far as gang is concerned, in KZN, we pretty much still in a safer place as compared to the previous years, and also as compared to other provinces. So that's our submission. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chair. There was a question in terms of our strategy and stakeholder metrics or stakeholder mapping from an M&E point of view. I would request General Ravi just to appraise the committee. What does the strategy indicate in terms of an M&E when it comes to our stakeholder metrics? General Ravi.
Thank you, National Commission. Honorable Chairperson, we are in a process to finalize the National Organized Crime Strategy for the country that we've been facilitating with other departments and external stakeholders as well. It will be entering the JCPS value chain tomorrow, where we will be presenting it for consideration. And as I believe the members of the honourable members are aware, it will then go through the different stages within the JCPS cluster, so that we can ultimately get cabinet approval for the strategy itself. But the strategy makes provision for a comprehensive monitoring and evaluation framework in terms of the responsibilities of all the departments that are involved. The matrix referenced a number of stakeholders. In terms of the strategy, the list is even longer. And when it comes to implementation of the strategy itself, each one of the departments will be assigned specific responsibilities. We are proposing the establishment of a national organized crime analysis center under the NPC, the committee that has been established for the purpose of organized crime, that will do strategic analysis and assessment, but also monitoring the progress that has been made by the various departments. So that mechanism will then do assessment on every department's contribution, what they will be doing from their various perspectives, because the strategy covers a wide range of pillars. In total, there are 9 of them, and it includes building community resilience as one of the key pillars. It includes the safeguarding of institutional integrity of government departments, including the SAPS, as key deliverables, and each of the departments will have an implementation responsibility that will be monitored. And then there will be specific emphasis on monitoring the outcome of the interventions to address syndicates in terms of how they are neutralized, who is involved, how are they structured. And it will require an investment in technology to do a proper analysis of how the criminal networks in South Africa operate, how they evolve, and who's involved. But it is, as I indicated, Chairperson, the strategy is now entering the JCPS value chain, and I hope soon we will be able to brief the committee on the total detail of what the strategy intends to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I believe we have captured almost all the questions. As indicated by General Rabi, we will be facilitating the National Organized Crime Strategy through the relevant JCPS value chain. And we believe that very soon we will interact with the committee once all the relevant approvals and activities have been concluded. Chair, I am not sure if the DM would want to come through from SAPS. I believe we have captured all the questions. Thank you, Chair.
No, I'm okay. I think let's allow members to ask the second question. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, DM. Thank you, General Dampani and the team. I'm then going to open the floor again for the members, obviously noting the previous round of hands, starting with the Honourable Schikkerling.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you, colleagues, for those detailed answers. I will not go with my rapid-fire questions, Chair. I actually only have one question, and it's something that I can't get clarity on, is can the SAPS specify the exact performance indicators and data sources that are used to evaluate intervention outcomes, including distinctions between output metrics, example, the arrests and seizures, and the output metrics and the outcome metrics, for example, conviction rates, network disruption, reduction in repeat violent offences, and how will this be tracked over time? Because what we do know is that more often than not, a lot of gang members are arrested, and we get information that within the next 2 days they're back on the street. And I think that is something that seriously has to be looked at, Chair, because I think that is what's causing a lot of the problems, is that there's not a good relationship, or I don't want to say good relationship, but the Department of Justice is not really coordinating, and that's my second question is, what concrete mechanisms are in place to ensure effective coordination between the SAPS, the NPA, the Asset Forfeiture Unit to secure convictions and to actually disrupt these criminal economies? Because it seems to me like there's no disruption of them. We keep arresting the foot soldiers, but we're not actually arresting the kingpins. Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. I then move to the Honourable Mokoena.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning to everyone on the platform. However, Chair, I'm largely covered by other honourable members and General Ntumule's response. Then I've got only 2 questions. And then what are the department's priority areas for phase implementation, and how will this ensure maximum impact in high-risk communities, given a 750 million anti-gang unit resourcing plan? And in the context of constrained personnel growth, what measures has SAPS implemented to optimize existing capacity, including redeployment and specialized training to strengthen anti-gang units? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Mokoena. I then move to the Honourable Sokopo.
Thank you, Chair, and take the opportunity to welcome the report. And correctly, some of the question has been asked, and to an extent, some has been answered. However, Chair, I just wanted to check with the challenges that we are facing in the forensic service, what is the plan or in the interventions that will be implemented to reduce the backlog and also to improve the turnaround time, so that cases brought by the anti-gang units are attended to? The second question, Chair, would probably be my last question. Can the department assure this committee that their operations, such as Operation Ukubusa and Operation Lockdown, are consistently targeting syndicate leadership as financial networks, rather than just, like one colleague have already said, it looks like they are targeting the Stierbootjes, and in targeting Stierbootjes, the kingpins just create other Stierbootjes. There's always ways of reintroducing Stierbootjes, because these Stierbootjes see the good life the kingpins are living. And in that, they become their heroes, their role models, and they will forever want to be close to them. So you rather kill the head to destroy whatever that you have. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Sokopo. I then move to the Honourable Muela. Honourable Muela, are you with us? I will come back to you again, Honourable Muela. I then move to the Honourable Director.
Thank you. Greetings, Chair, and greetings to our department under the leadership of the deputy ministers who are part of the meeting. Chair, I only have 2 questions. The first one is that, can the department outline how the 4-area monitoring framework will be used to provide regular, measurable, and transparent report to this committee on progress made? And secondly, Chair, is on the deployment of the South African National Defence Force, which we believe that is a temporary measure and it's aimed at providing necessary stability. What are the department plan to ensure that a sustainable transition to strengthen SAPS-led policy, so that the gains that are maintained beyond the deployment period are remained as they are? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Dereko. Colleagues, we've only got 3 more members to ask questions for this round. So instead of breaking it up now, if you don't mind, General Dempane, I'm going to allow them to also ask, because many of the questions are quite a bit shorter than anticipated. So I'm going to then hand over to the Honourable Reverend Meshwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. I had many challenges with my phone. I'm speaking from my phone now. I was supposed to have been part of the first group, but I had challenges. But nevertheless, thank you very much for the opportunity. And greetings to you, Chairperson, to all members, the DMs, and SAPS management. My first question, Mr. Chairman, obviously, is about the national crime. It is not the first. We have had many national crime strategies that did not produce the desired results. Now, I want to know how different is this current strategy that has been given to different relevant stakeholders to look at, and if they say cabinet still has to approve that, how long will that take? Because crime is definitely escalating in the country, and people are worried. We are all worried, including myself. And my second question has to do with the drug fighting in the country. Now, it was very disappointing to hear that some stations do not have the capacity to protect and to keep safe cities. I want to know what is being done to ensure that all police stations, particularly where drugs are held and stored, have the capacity. It is totally unacceptable to hear that there was no security or the security cameras were not working. That is totally unacceptable. There has to be a measure of urgency to ensure that where drugs are kept, they will not be stolen by the very police. We don't know the ranks yet, and then they are recirculating. So we heard even yesterday and today that at the OR Tambo, millions of friends of drugs have been discovered and the people involved arrested. But before us clapping hands that something is happening, I want to know what is going to be done to ensure that those drugs are not stolen wherever they are going to be kept, that even after 2 months, if necessary, we'll still be told that not a single one has disappeared. My last question has to do with international drug syndicates. Obviously, we know that government works with their counterparts in different parts of the world. What I want to know is, are they getting satisfactory response and cooperation from these governments? And how are they monitoring the successes or failures of those governments in dealing with the criminals that were arrested in South Africa but were handed over to Interpol? Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Reverend. I want to hand over to the Honourable Skosana, followed by the Honourable Basson, after which I will hand over back to General Dempane. Honourable Skosana.
Have you recognized? Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just want to, I'm not sure because I came up late, but something happened in my province yesterday. Before I make a question, I just wanted to say that our sincere condolences to the 2 officers who died in my province in Witbank yesterday night. And my question would be, as far as this intervention is concerned, currently, perhaps is there any evidence that the area has been stabilized, as far as this gang violence is concerned? And is there any arrest, and how many arrests has been done so far? I know that it's still in an early stages, but if there's some statistics, can the leadership of SAPS provide to us? And I think all these gang-related issues has to be attended, as it was confirmed by both SAPS and the South African National Defence Force. And I guess that by now, at least we will know what has transpired. Is there any successes? Hence I'm saying it's still in the early stages, but perhaps they can indicate, how many arrests and the court-related, how many cases, and yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Skosana. I see the network has been restored with the Honourable Muela. Honourable Muela, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. And my apology for the network difficulties. I want to start by acknowledging the DMs in the meeting and all the presenters, and also all the provincial commissioners which are part and parcel of these proceedings, and to say the matter of gangsterism, Chairperson, is it's some sort of a culture that is instilled within a particular group that we are dealing with, which gives us more work into buying into the society and the community for us to be able to unlock or to be able to cap the issue of gangsterism. We need to get a real community integrated operations where the community will be able to assist us in ensuring that we are successful in this particular journey that we are having, to ensure that we cap and we deal with the issue of gangsterism in selected areas that they've identified, which were also part and parcel of the SONA issues that have to be addressed. I just have few questions that I need clarity on, because most of the clarities that have been able to seek have been largely covered by the response and also from the honorable members. The question that I have is with regard to integrated crime and violence prevention strategy that has been developed, to see in terms of being operationalized at provincial and local levels to address the root cause of gangsterism beyond policing intervention, as to how is the integrated crime and violence prevention strategy being operationalized at provincial and local levels to address the root causes of gangsterism beyond policing interventions. Hence, I started indicating the issue of culture in certain areas where gangsterism, it is seen as something that is part and parcel of the norms and values of that particular area. So what is the plan in terms of keeping these particular occurrences? And another question will be, what specific programs are in place to strengthen community trust and partnerships, particularly in gang-affected areas, to improve intelligence gathering and prevent recruitment into gangs? A typical example, Chair, will be the recent deployment of the soldiers in the Cape Flats, where we found the community having to not really having a smooth relations with the particular deployments, where the aim is to cap. But if we don't actually have a buy-in of the community, what is the strategy in order to have that smooth transition where the community will be part and parcel of the process to deal with this issue once and for all? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Muela. I then move to the Honourable Basson.
Chairperson, sorry, it's Honourable Shongwe. You keep on skipping me. I don't know whether we have a beef or what. We can settle it out outside of here.
Honorable Shongwe, I can't see your hand or anything. I don't know, maybe, but there's there's certainly no beef. So if I may allow the Honorable Basson, then I will come back to you, Honorable Shongwe.
No problem, Chair.
Honorable Shongwe, you are you for some or other reason you're Honorable Shongwe, are you still there?
I'm here, Chair. Yeah. Maybe I didn't register my name very well today. It's registered under Tulani, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, your device seems to appear as MP Juliet Basson. I thought this is very interesting.
No way. Okay. No, they borrowed me a laptop. Sorry, a tablet at work. So I must take it
But I can
in.
call you. I can call you Honorable Basson or Honorable Shongwe. You can decide. You're more than welcome, Honorable Shongwe. Please go ahead. You've got 5 minutes.
No, greetings, Chair. Greetings to the members and greetings to the officials of the SAPS. I'll be quick on this one because I'm covered largely by members. But my concern is again on the officials. I'm kind of worried on how we are responded in some of the members that were, some of the senior officials. They seem to generalize the answers in terms of them saying the matter is being investigated, there's being a follow-up. I think now it's time where, Chair, we focus on telling, calling a spade, and telling if we are failing or we're not failing, because the generalization of these answers is I'm not quite happy with that one. Number two, the mentioning of names of senior officials such as General Khan, General Sinona in the allege of those drugs at one stage were seized and all that happened worries me. So I want to ask the department, what measures have they taken regarding into ensuring that the firearms that are found in crime scenes, the drugs that are found, are they seriously protected? Have they designed a new strategy that will make sure that we don't get to be using that evidence as a restocking of the criminal syndicate? Because you find the very same drugs are out there being sold again. You find the same firearms that go and kill, commit murders out there. So I think we have a problem in safekeeping of those evidence. So what measures, if we are serious, have they planned for this coming 2026 going forward? Again, General Kwanazi touched on a very sensitive issue, which causes the social problems in our economy, in our communities, the employment. Has SAPS have a plan this year in terms of going to township communities, workshopping young ones in terms of being interested in joining the SAPS? And again, have they focused on the error that always happens where they will find on the social media, there is a post that says SAPS is employing, knowingly that SAPS is one of the largest departments that government has that employs a lot of people. Have they fixed that error, or have they have a plan on how they're going to entice and go to the community and maybe grow the visibility of being available in townships to at least entice or interest the young ones into joining SAPS, and also clean the stigma of the SAPS amongst the communities? Because I always say this. At one stage, there was a comment that in totality, SAPS is corrupt or dirty, which I somehow disagree and agree at the same time. However, I think that stigma can be fixed, because at one stage, when SAPS is looking for you, then you know these people are really, really working. We wouldn't be having such dockets, and people that have been arrested by the task teams appearing on the ad hoc and then on the Mandlanga if we didn't have SAPS members working. So I think we must focus on making sure that the perception that SAPS is viewed on must be changed. But that can be done through reporting that is not generalized, that is factual, that is straight on point going forward. I submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Shongwe. Then I hand over back to DM Matale as well as General Dimpane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. General Dimpane, you can lead with the team. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps I'll start at the bottom on the issue of restoring our reputation as well as restoring trust to the communities that we serve. Chair, we are hard at work to ensure that we restore our reputation as an organization. We are all aware where we are at this point in time. So the exercise of rebuilding this organization is currently underway. There are hardworking men and women in blue. I agree with Honorable Shongwe. And we do have initiatives that General Nkua will touch on in terms of recruiting as well as selling or marketing this organization to the youth. We do have career shows that we embark upon. General Nkua will touch on that. She will come in immediately after myself and also touch on the HR priorities that are focusing on strengthening these AGU units. This is a priority for us. We are currently finalizing our HR priority list as well as the related funding so that we ensure that when these deployments that seeks to stabilize are withdrawn, we need to have comfort or give comfort to ourselves as well as the expectations of this committee that these AG units are resourced. So that is work that is currently underway. She will touch on that, including the strength and all the activities surrounding the resourcing of these units and the efforts that we have done up to so far to ensure that we then recruit the young ones and we sell and we correct brand SAPS. We need to ensure, and we have also given task to our corporate communication that we need to rebuild this brand that is called SAPS. There are men and women working hard and SAPS is doing its work. We do have a couple of those that we are hard at work to deal with and ensure that we get rid of those that are tainting the reputation of this organization. I will request after General Nkua that General Musikidi comes in on all matters that relates to these deployments, SNDF deployments. And there are questions regarding exhibit management, the safekeeping of these exhibits. I think General Musikidi and General Sintumile will give comfort as well as the committee, the strategies. We do have policies and procedures that guide members in terms of how to behave and handle themselves surrounding exhibit management, where we find ourselves to be in the wrong in terms of non-compliance to the existing prescripts. There ought to be consequence management. We do have plans as well as prescripts, Honorable Chair, as well as members. The issue might be the issue of accountability as well as non-compliance that we need to strengthen at all levels, from provinces to all those that are responsible to ensure the safekeeping of exhibits as well as exhibit management in this regard. General Musikidi and General Sintumile will touch on this. These are the things that exactly taints the reputation of the organization. After General Musikidi and General Sintumile, General Ngosi will then also come back in terms of the matters that relates to his environment. There are also issues of crime stats, arrests in terms of gang violence. The colleagues will touch on those, whether we are in a position to share with the committee the successes up to so far in terms of arrests that are related to gang violence and the effectiveness as well as the impact of these operations. There is mention of Operation Kubuza, whether we are targeting high-level syndicates. DPCI and General Musikidi will also touch on that. And also the issues of forensic services, how are we strengthening our forensic services environments, the issues of capacity. We are hard at work, increasing our footprints and the collaboration with other stakeholders. General Sintumile will elaborate on those particular issues. In terms of improvement of our investigations to ensure that they lead to convictions, detectives, General Sintumile will cover that particular question. Our coordination between SAPS and PA to ensure that there are convictions in terms of this. She will touch on that. There are platforms and processes where all relevant stakeholders do meet to ensure that we improve issues of investigations, and we must have investigations that leads to convictions in this regard. So we'll start with General Nkoa, then I'll hand over to General Musikidi, General Sintumule as well, and end up with General Nkos, in that order, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members. And let me also recognize the presence of our two Deputy Ministers, Deputy Minister Matale, as well as Deputy Minister Dr. Bushielo, the Acting National Commissioner, and the Acting DNCs present, and all the colleagues in the platform. Honorable Chair, yes, I think the Acting National Commissioner has covered mainly in terms of the response of the SAPS in as far as marketing the SAPS as an employer of choice. I must indicate, Chair, that we are participating in various marketing events. January, we had the National Police Day, and during the National Police Day, we also invited children from the schools, because we also had the National Career Expo. We also participated recently at the Rand Easter Show, and we are participating in many other marketing events. We are invited by the schools to come and present to the school children the SAPS as an employer of choice. So we are doing quite a lot, Chairperson, in terms of marketing the SAPS as the employer of choice. I must indicate, Chairperson, that the spin-off of our marketing, we see it during our recruitment drives. Last year, when we advertised our 5,500 posts, we received just over 1 million applications. So it shows that there is a lot of interest of the young ones who wants to join the South African Police Service. And I must also indicate, Chairperson, that we are also spoiled for choice, because the kind of applicants that we are receiving these days, applicants with good qualifications, with law degrees, with Bachelor of Science degrees. Yes, of course, we do have matriculants applying as well. So there's a lot of interest from the young ones who wants to join the police, but we are also aware of the fact that others might just want to take chances, but we are having a selection tool that is also assisting us in making sure that those that are not supposed to be in the system, they are not in the system. But I know some of them, they do fall through the cracks, but we do find them as they are in the police, because we see from their behaviors once they are in the South African Police Service. So there's a lot that we are doing, Honorable Shongwe, and we'll continue to do a lot in terms of marketing the SAPS as the employer of choice. In terms of capacitating the AGU and other specialized units, we have received over 900 million in this current financial year from the CFO, who's currently the Acting National Commissioner, in terms of us capacitating the specialized units. On Friday, Chairperson, we'll be presenting our first draft report before the Finance Committee of the department. And from there, we'll be taking the report to the Human Resource Management Committee. And once the report is finalized, we'll be happy to share with the committee as to how are we going to capacitate the specialized units. But I must indicate that the anti-gang units, they are prioritized in the more than 900 million that has been given to the SAPS, to make sure that we give them enough personnel to be able to deliver on their mandate. I think that is all from my side, Chairperson. Thank you very much. Thanks, Etinascom.
Chair, we will then take General Musikidi, followed by General Sintumule.
Good morning, Chair, committee members, deputy ministers, Acting National Commissioner. Let me stand by the established protocol. Chairperson, may I request that colleagues come in? I'm just going through the questions that were sent to me. I did indicate to the Acting National Commissioner that with the vetting processes that is currently underway, I'm having an interview, and at the time where Honorable Shikeleng took the platform, I was doing the interview, so I'll go through these questions and come back later to respond. Through you, Chairperson, if you agree. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the lifestyle audits for senior management is underway, and seriously so. So majority of our senior managers are currently working together with SIU, and we apologize for that. I would request General Sintumule to come in the meantime, followed by General Nkosi.
Thank you very much, Acting National Commissioner, and thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm going to start with the question of Honorable Sokoko that relates to the issue of targeting, particularly for gangs. Our targeting, as I said earlier, focuses now on your kingpins and high flyers. I know that before we were dealing with the runners, and I think we know that those in the value chain, they could be replaced. And as a result, in the pyramid that we presented earlier, our focus is on the kingpins and the high flyers. The high flyers, particularly those with wealth that they cannot explain, and those would be the ones who are involved in money laundering through your clubs or taxi businesses. In terms of rolling out these, I must specify that these actually start from crime intelligence when they do their own operations, which lead then to us conducting our PGI between detectives and the GPCI. To also demonstrate the effectiveness of this approach, I want to submit to the meeting that as we sit here, we have got 2 racketeering certificates issued. One is issued in Belleville South, and that has to do with your drug dealing and manufacturing, and that is a DPCI case. In this specific case, only the gang leaders were arrested, but also in the one of Edenvale dealt with by the detectives. Again, I think this talks to the issue of fraud and corruption. And in this one, 23 arrests were made, and in most of them, it is the higher pyramid of the gangs. And also above that, we've got a number of cases currently sitting at court, basically emanating from the arrest of gang leaders. And this talks to Milnerton, Kamesh, Firetown, and others. I will, Chairperson, move to the issue of forensic. I'm going to allow General Mogale to talk more to the issues of the detectives. He's sitting next to me. In the previous sitting of the portfolio committee, we reported that with your high crime volumes come your high samples. And I think with our current infrastructure, we're not coping. Therefore, our focus for this financial year is on the forensic science laboratory expansion project, which already started last year. Our current initiatives, including the CSIR expansion for our RI lane, your Bukal sample lane. I must say, Chairperson, that this is 80% complete. We are now working on finalizing the projected costing, that is your cost benefit analysis according to the MTF, as well as the signing of the MOU between SAPS and the CSIR. Our last meeting took place last week, but we are meeting again on the 13th to finalize those modalities together with Public Works. And also we are expanding to Mpumalanga and Limpopo. I must say on Mpumalanga, we already have a commitment for funding. Science and technology is assisting us through DDG MOPE to identify laboratories in both provinces, in Mpumalanga and Limpopo. And these could even be universities where we can then expand our FSL capacity. I'll stop at this, Chair, and I'll tell Mukhale to also take you through the other questions around detectives.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, thank you very much, Chair. All protocol observed. Chair, I'm just going to add on the questions that were maybe left behind by my DNC. Chair, on the issue of the question asked by Honorable Shekelen about the relationship with the Department of Justice, citing the asset forfeiture, NPA, and ourselves. Chair, I must emphasize there that it's really working very well, and together ourselves with the stakeholders that I mentioned. We are visiting other countries. Lately, we were in Germany, where we also went to benchmark in terms of the PGI to ensure that the working relationship is strengthened and the output becomes positive in that regard. So I must say that to Honorable Shekering that our relationship with those departments are very well taken into consideration, that we go together in those countries to benchmark. Honorable Chair, I'll go to the backlog on the question mentioned by Honorable Sokopo. Chair, in that question of the backlog, yes, it affects the output as mentioned, but Chair, in organized crime, we're talking the prosecutorial guided investigation where our prosecutors are with us. Everything that it's done, we're talking the multiple suspects that we're dealing with, the financial trails, and even covert operations that are taken or incorporated into the organized crime investigation. So in terms of the PGI, the involvement of the prosecutors, it helps a lot because it assists us from the onset to build stronger cases and make sure that cases that go to court are ready. Now, in terms of the involvement of the prosecutors going together with us and guiding the investigation from the scratch, ensuring that when we act in terms of all the requirements that are needed. So we're closing all the loopholes that are supposed to be emerging in that regard. So I must say, the Chairperson, that in terms of the two, we are very happy that we're doing very well. And the third one was the SAP 13 that the acting national commissioner take us through on in terms of the policies and prescripts that we have governing the SAP 13 in terms of how exhibits should be managed. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. There was also a question on output metrics versus outcome. I would request General Rabi just to appraise the committee in terms of in relation to organized crime in this regard. How do we then, the measurement in this particular regard? He will be followed by General Mukhonazi just to expatiate on all questions that we might have missed out when it comes to these issues of organized crime, as well as gangsterism, including the safekeeping of these exhibits. And then lastly, to be General Nkosi to round up this round of questions. General Rabi, followed by General Mkhonazi, and then General Nkosi.
Honourable Chair, responding to the issues that has been raised by Honourable Chikeling and Tireku, and I think there was some others that also made reference to the measurements that we are going to use. In the research that we conducted and the consultation processes that we've gone through, it was evident that measuring, positive impact on organized crime is a complex exercise, and I agree that you can't rely only on outputs in terms of number of arrests that has been made. It is important. It is important to report on that. Specifically when it comes to recoveries, seizures, asset recoveries, those type of indicators, specific outputs, they do play a role. But the hierarchy of indicators also includes your outcomes and ultimately the impact that you would want to achieve. Now, the impact in terms of organized crime is in a way it's complex, but we can state it very simple. And the intention is to neutralize the impact of organized crime in the country so that they don't have the effect that they currently have. But to measure that is not as simple. And we are currently in a process to determine the specific sets of indicators. And I agree with what Honourable Chikeling said, that we will differentiate between the different types of indicators in terms of outputs, and then outcomes achieved, and then ultimately impact in terms of specific hotspot areas. But what is important to know is that when you start with the development of indicators, you need to know and understand where you are starting from, specifically when it comes to outcomes and impact. And outputs are easier to measure. They will be included in our measurements. As I've highlighted some of the examples, that includes arrests and seizures, etc. Outputs relate more to the actual neutralization of a specific syndicate in terms of making, that they are no longer able to operate in an organized manner in a specific area. And so for that specific purpose, we will have to have indicators to indicate whether we've achieved that. If you have high profile, if you look at the intention is to have profiles on all the identified syndicates and gangs, understanding in which markets they are involved, understanding which are the actors that are involved, understanding their modus operandi, how they operate, what their footprint is. And you need to have measures in place to determine whether you have actually achieved to neutralize that. And taking them successfully through the court system. For instance, if I may use an example of, we can have an arrest of a prominent, or a person of interest or a prominent leader within the organized crime domain. The person can be arrested. The next challenge is to get that person successfully through the criminal justice system to have a conviction at the end of the day, but it doesn't end there. Then you get to a process of incarceration where the intention is to first of all prevent that person from further involvement in organized crime activities, even from prisons where they are still issuing instructions, they're still coordinating activities. That is something that you need to attend to. But at the same time, you need to focus on the rehabilitation of that person for reintegration into society, and ultimately making sure that the person doesn't get involved in organized crime again. And General Mkwanazi raised a very, very important issue, is other departments and stakeholders need to get involved, because if you place the person back into a society where job creation is problematic, where there's high levels of poverty and people don't have access to jobs, they, in some instances, will not have an option but to revert back to getting into organized crime as a means of generating an income and a living for them and the people that they are responsible for. So that is the process that we are going to follow to distinguish between the different sets of indicators and then ultimately impact. If you take the Western Cape as an example, we have to be in a position at the end of the day to show or to prove that the impact of gangs and organized crime syndicates and in that area has been neutralized. They are no longer there. They are no longer operating there. They no longer have an impact. And that is complicated. And it's dependent on a lot of other things that needs to happen. It's not only about the arrest of the individual or the people that are involved, but it's also about building community resilience in terms of making sure that people, that communities as a whole are able to stand the ground against the work of gangs or the activities of gangs and criminal organizations. So I believe that as soon as we have concluded this process, we will be able to present how we will measure it. Because to be quite frank, Honourable Chairperson, in most instances in the past, we stopped at outputs. In terms of arrests, etc., it gets more difficult to go to outcomes and impact. But we need to do it, because if you cannot show impact, I think it's Honourable Reverend Meshu, who asked about what will make this difference, what will make this strategy and approach different. The only way that we're going to prove that it's different is in the outcome that we're going to achieve and the impact that we will be able to achieve. And all the departments that are involved in the strategy itself need to be able to, as a collective, prove that we were able to stabilize the situation, restore law and order in specific environments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. We will then take General Mkwanazi, followed by General Nkosi.
Honorable Chair, the few things that perhaps I could add is that indeed we have a national instruction that governs executive management in the police. The directives in terms of how we collect, how we package, how we transport, how we save, store, and how we dispose of the exhibit is prescribed in National Instruction 8 of 2017, and that is communicated. Every commander, station commander, gets to be trained on that. There are station learning management programs and different training platforms that we have in the police to make sure that everyone is aware of how to handle exhibits. What we see happening, Honorable Chair members, is just criminal act from within, as embarrassing as it is, but I'm sure honorable members, as you're going to be catching up on the Madlanga Commission on a testimony that the Major General Finn from DPCI is presenting right now from yesterday, is indicating the weaknesses in the system and how officials within the police have manipulated the handling of exhibits in the South African Police Service at the highest level. And there are many of those. We're charging members left and right. In one of my districts in KZN, for instance, in the past 2 months, we have suspended a Major General who's a district commissioner for poor exhibit management, where a large amount of money was lost in the SAP13 store under their supervision. And one member or 2 members were dismissed as a result of that. So, but the national instruction is there to guide how we should be doing the work. Honorable Chair members, Jarabi has covered some of the things. In as far as we are going to be coordinating our operations going forward, different entities, South African Police Service comes up with their own plans on fighting organized crime. NPA has their own strategy. And I must indicate that NPA had finalized their strategy on dealing with organized crime, I think, in August 2024. And that document is available. So what we are trying to do is to put our resources together, come up with this model that we want to adopt as South African Police Service, and bring the NPA and all the other stakeholders on board so that we all can then understand how we should be fighting this going forward. What we would like to see, Honorable Chair members, which unfortunately doesn't happen, it's a coordination between our work and NPA, similar to how IDEC operates. IDEC is empowered to have the prosecution team within them. That makes the decision quicker. But for the South African Police Service in the bigger part of our country, we have to engage with the NPA, and the NPA are guided by their own policy on prosecution. So there are some challenges in some instances when you have to deal with certain matters in different levels. But NPA does have their organized crime sections within their DPP's office in all provinces that are focused on dealing organized crime. So we're trying to find a better working method to speed up the process involving SAPS from General Detective, DPCI, as well as the NPA, so that we can be able to tackle these things with speed. Honorable Chair members, we are going to be, as I said, as we are coordinating, we focus on profiling. I think Jarabi presented our focus areas, profiling those that are criminals and those that are state actors within our system that are allowing the criminality to happen. So the profiling will be done jointly by the South African Police Service, the state security, as well as defense intelligence combined. There's commitment made on that. When we are putting these teams, we're going to put them together. How we're going to be approaching this going forward as we are revising this strategy, we're going to stagger our deployments. We'll start with the analysts that are going to be, or start with commanders that we're going to identify, and we profile them. And then from there, we get the analysts that are going to come together from all these entities I'm talking about. And then we're going to be getting analysis work done on syndicates that to confirm that these are the type of syndicates we're dealing with, where they're troubling us, and also drawing up case dockets, whether they are gang-related, drug-related, and we've seen a lot of these gangs that are operating within the spaza shops. Honorable Chair members, we might see this noise of spaza shops in our country. The reality is, it's not because they're making money out of those spaza shops. It's another method of justifying the means to deal with other illicit activities that they're busy with. So the selling of a bread in a price less than what you buy a bread in Shoprite does not justify it to make a profit. So then the question is to what is behind that makes them to have prices so low that they beat any South Africans at illegal mining and hijacking and amongst others. So those are the case dockets that some of them will have been open where the team are going to do a lot of analysis on them. And then from there, we're going to mobilize the investigation team, jointly between organized crime and DPCI, profile them, and then be able to coordinate those investigations, of course, working with the prosecution, being guided by them. So that's in short, Honorable Chair and members, but as I'm sure as we are working on this, progressing on our work, we'll be able to update the committee when the time comes. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chair. Lastly, I would request General Nkosi to wrap up on this round of questions, and that will be all from SAPS team Chair. General Nkosi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and members. Just to give assurance as far as it relates to the question whether kingpins or are being attended to, I can confirm that yes, indeed, we do concentrate and investigate those who are alleged to be in the forefront of the criminal activities. As an example, I'll try and just cite two cases because they are already of public knowledge without giving the names of the accused. As an example, there in the Western Cape in Paarl during February 2025, we managed to dismantle and seize steroids, and which were then also packaged and sent to the Forensic Science Laboratory for analysis. We have the 4 accused persons currently before court in the Western Cape, and the total value involved in this street value of the steroids, it's 9.5 million. And also we had an undercover operation which was handled also from the Western Cape. But to show the transnational or cross-provincial nature of organized crime, we followed up and seized drugs here in the upper part of the country, in Makapanstad, in a farm. And the matter also, we have here 5 criminals being charged, individuals appearing in court. Matter it's still undergoing the hearing, and the amount involved as well, it's 11.5 million. What we managed to get there were tablets, press machines, chemicals, methadone powder, and Mandrake tablets. And this is just one way or the other, Honorable Chairperson and members, just to say we do have cases where we have been successfully been able to attend to the kingpins. Some of the matters are before court, as mentioned by General Sintumule, that additional charges in terms of racketeering, which is the highest charge you get for repeated criminal activities on individuals who have decided to make crime as their business. So the charges are always added to ensure that when the conviction, should it be achieved, it sends the right message to say crime does not pay. We then use what we normally call project-driven investigations, which is also part and parcel of our annual performance plan indicators. We follow unconventional methods And the reason why we are more interested in participating and cooperating from the lower levels of the investigation of organized crime, we can only be able to kill the head, as indicated by the honorable member, to say focus on the head. You can be able to kick and kill the head by climbing through the feet and the hands until you get to the head. Otherwise, the head moving alone might not show what the hands are carrying or what the feet are pushing under there. So we have that coordination and roll-up process, which is an all-inclusive process that looks at these particular crimes. And on the progress reporting mechanisms, I think General Rabi touched on that, but also I think through communication, we will always advise the public, because these are matters of public interest, and the committee as well, in terms of successes that are achieved in addressing this type of criminality. And also, how will this strategy be different from others? General Rabi has touched on the issue of impact, that impact is one of the areas that will demonstrate. However, just to add as well, to say that this strategy also take into cognizance the current landscape. We consider the current crime situation in the country, and especially on organized crime. Organized crime, it's a very creative method of committing crime, and the offenders or the perpetrators of this crime, they leverage technology as an example, and they are able to swift and adjust from one type of a crime to another crime. And also, maybe what's a bit different here is that we're trying to look holistically, inclusive of the crimes that are associated to drugs, not to gangs such as your drugs, firearms, and so forth. So we will make sure that we bring sufficient strategies as well, flexible, and that can always deal with these matters. The question on the international drug trafficking, whether we're getting satisfactory responses with other government departments, I can indicate that through the Interpol interventions from time to time, there are always conferences and meetings where we follow up on cooperation, and we discuss and learn from each other best practices in terms of what other countries have achieved, and where crime affects several countries. It is always good for us to know what is happening, and we share such information. I will not touch much on the PGI. It has been done, the prosecution guided investigation. As alluded that earlier, a question was raised to whether IDEC, as an example, it's working with us. I can just confirm that within the NPA, the different components, first, it would be that IDEC, obviously, if there's anything to deal with corruption, we cooperate and we work hand in hand with them. But on this particular one, we have the organized crime component within the NPA. We have then prosecutors there who are assigned to assist us in the investigations, including case dockets and our projects. We also have the asset forfeiture investigations or the asset forfeiture unit of the NPA. How we deal with these matters within the SAPS and the DPCI, asset forfeiture investigations and money laundering are mandatory requirements that we utilize to ensure that we deal effectively with crime. Money laundering is a crime mentioned in POCA, the Prevention of Organized Crime Act, which is one way or the other to discourage criminals from getting richer through proceeds of crime. Then we also have the different asset forfeiture orders as well to hit where it hurts the most. People will commit crime because there is a benefit, so we remove the benefit from the crime. And the earlier question that we omitted earlier was the money laundering various ways. It depends anyway, case to case, but an example was given that some they are using either they buy properties, they buy businesses, they also buy luxurious or vehicles. So we focus on these items and we get the necessary court orders with huge sums of amounts that we recover and we deposit into the criminal asset recovery fund. So to conclude, Honorable Chairperson, indeed we are dealing with money laundering. We focus on the launderer self or the person who commits the crime. We focus on professional enablers if they are identified. We focus on beneficiaries of the proceeds of crime. We deal decisively as well with the instrumentalists in the event, say, of drugs where a car might be used. We take away the car. And we have the NPCOC, National Priority Operational Committee, which also ensures that the multidisciplinary approach is coordinated sufficiently. So we have then government departments participating and other institutions. As an example, we have the FIC, we have SARS, we have SIU, we have SSA, we have Crime Intelligence, National Treasury, the DPCI, SAPS, and others. And this is a forum which is coordinated or handled in line with Section 17 of the SAPS Act to say there should be a committee that assists each other and coordinates efforts in dealing with national priority offenses. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson and the committee members, we are hard at work at SAPS, working together with the relevant stakeholders to tackle this particular matter. And we believe with better coordination and the support from all stakeholders, including the committee, we will be in a position to can turn around the corner. With that, Chairperson, this will be all from the SAPS team. I hand over back to the Chair.
Thank you very much, General Dampani and the team. Colleagues, we have come to the conclusion of the discussion with SAP specifically regarding the presentation. I believe a lot of the questions, most of the questions were answered according to me. I would like to, before we hand over to Nicolette, to share the draft terms of reference for the further gang inquiry with us. I would just like to briefly give an opportunity to DM Matale, just maybe for one or two closing remarks before we then continue with the rest of our agenda. And DM, I would like to say that you are then more than welcome to release the rest of the team, yourself too, as long as you know you are welcome to stay as well when we continue. Thank you, DM.
No, thank you very much, Chair and the committee members, for the questions and comments that you made with regard to the presentation that we presented before you. Your questions assist us to have a better perspective on the work that we are doing. I think the acting national commissioner indicated in her comments as she was making her final comments that the committee have a role to play in the success of the work that we are doing, and in particular, the issues that we were discussing today that has to do with this integrated deployment of the South African National Defence Force and the South African Police Service. The success on this depends on the role that you play as members of parliament, as members of community in your constituencies. Through your constituencies, we can succeed in our fight against gangsterism and organized crime in the country. We value your contribution and we appreciate it a lot. And I must also appreciate the presentation and the response by the SAPS team together with DPCI led by General Dimpani for the manner in which they responded to the questions before us. I appreciate that a lot, and I think we can do better and much more working together with the committee. Thank you very much, and we also appreciate your good gesture to release us, Chair, so that you can look into the terms of reference. And as you said, that I'm a member of the committee, so I can stay if I so wish. But I humbly accept the gesture from your part. We will disconnect after you have made your last comment on about ourselves before we disconnect. But thank you so much, Chair, and best wishes for the day.
Thank you very much, dear Matale. I would like to then move on to the next part, and with that, as we do, again, just say that we can release everyone from the department and the South African Police Service. Thank you again. I would like to then, colleagues, hand over to Nicolette, Nicolette van Zyl-Gous, for the presentation on the terms of reference, proposed terms of reference for the inquiry, after which we will be able to have a brief discussion on it. Please know that none of this is set in stone, and there will be time for, even after this meeting, to send suggestions and to join us in further discussion to ensure that our terms of reference are accurate, focused, and of good use for when we kick off with the physical part of the inquiry. Nicolette, may I please hand over to you?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honourable members. As the chairperson indicated, I will take members through the draft terms of reference for the parliamentary inquiry into gang-related violent crime. Honourable members, we will look at the table of content. We have the background, the legal framework, the National Assembly resolution, the mandate and scope, the geographic focus, methodology, public participation and transparency, the venue for meetings, timeframes, reporting, resourcing, site visits, community work program, and the adoption, and finally the conclusion. Members, in terms of the background, we've stated here that gang-related violence in South Africa forms part of a broader and evolving pattern of organized crime, which manifests unevenly across provinces. While gang activity is present in other provinces, the Western Cape remains severely affected, both in terms of the scale of the violence and the level of organization of criminal groupings. Members, I just want to note here that the gang violence in other provinces, like the Gauteng, Eastern Cape, and KZN, it is acknowledged. However, we do have time constraints regarding the parliamentary program. We also have the July recess and the local government election in November this year, and also the NA resolution specifically noted areas in the city of Cape Town. The inquiry could be replicated to other affected provinces, and this is noted in sections 3.2, 3.3, 4.4, and 6.3 of the draft terms of reference. Honorable members, at a national level, gang violence is interconnected with broader organized criminal activity, including drug trafficking, extortion, illegal firearms, and transport-related violence. These criminal economies are mutually reinforcing and contribute significantly to serious violent crime, particularly murder. The persistence of gang violence is rooted in historical and socioeconomic conditions. Apartheid spatial planning, including forced removals and the development of areas such as the Cape Flats, basically entrenched inequality and marginalization, creating conditions conducive to gang entrenchment and ongoing recruitment. Honorable members, these dynamics are very complex, involving both rivalry between groups and internal conflicts. Violence is driven by competition over territory and illicit markets, power struggles, and intimidation, resulting in recurring cycles of retaliation. The economic dimensions is very central, with gangs embedded in illicit markets, particularly drug distribution and extortion. Extortion in sectors such as construction and small businesses has grown significantly, with serious economic and social impacts. Now, we know the policing responses have increasingly shifted towards integrated, intelligence-led approaches aimed at disrupting organized criminal networks through coordinated multi-agency interventions. These efforts continue to face constraints, including community-level resistance, as well as concerns regarding corruption and collusion within parts of the criminal justice system. Now, in response, additional capacity has been deployed through the support of the South African National Defence Force to the South African Police Service, reflecting the scale and intensity of the challenge. Despite ongoing enforcement efforts, the persistence of gang-related violence highlights its structural nature and the limitation of enforcement-driven approaches alone. Lastly, in the background, addressing gang violence requires a coordinated whole-of-government response that integrates law enforcement, social development, and community-based interventions, supported by effective oversight and accountability. Honorable members, moving on to the legal framework, the National Assembly has both the power and the duty to hold the National Executive to account. Section 42, sub 3 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa provides the NA is elected to represent the people and to ensure government by the people under the Constitution. It does this in various ways. One of them is by scrutinizing and overseeing executive action. Also, in Section 55, sub 2 of the Constitution, it imposes a duty on the NA to provide mechanisms to hold the National Executive to account. Section 56 of the Constitution provides that the NA or any of its committees may summons any person to appear before it to give evidence on oath or affirmation, or to produce documents. It requires any person or institution to report to it, compel in terms of the national legislation or the rules and orders any person or institution to comply with a summons or requirement in terms of paragraph A or B noted above, and D, receive petitions, representations, or submissions from any interested person or institution. Section 59 of the Constitution provides for public access to and involvement in the NA, and may not exclude the public, including the media, from a sitting of a committee unless it is reasonable and justifiable to do so in an open and democratic society. Honourable members, moving to the National Assembly resolution. On the 25th of November 2025, the NA resolved to mandate the Portfolio Committee on Police in terms of Rule 227, Sub 1, Sub E, to conduct a parliamentary inquiry into gang-related violence in Cape Town. The resolution notes that communities across the Cape Flats area in Cape Town are under siege from rampant gang-related violence and criminal activity, and that while the murder rates remain higher in other parts of the country, the high rate of murders continues to severely terrorize businesses, schools, and even churches. It further notes the escalation in mass shootings in the area, now becoming sadly more common and distressing feature of violent crime in South Africa, exemplified amongst others by the recent murder of 11 people in Swanee and 7 people at Better Life in Philippi, Cape Town. Believes that the South African Police Service in the area is severely under-resourced and overwhelmed by the intensity and the frequency of these crimes, and as such is unable to sufficiently detect, prevent, and investigate violent crimes in Cape Town. The resolution recognizes that out of the top 10 police stations reporting contact crime in the country, 4 of them are based in Cape Town, namely Mfuleni, Nyanga, and Kraaifontein. Further recognizes that out of the top 10 police stations at which murder is reported in the country, 5 are in Cape Town, namely Delft, Mfuleni, Nyanga, Philippi East, and Kraaifontein. The NA resolution further acknowledge, apologies, members. The resolution further acknowledges that the cumulative effect of this violent crime and murder is debilitating to society in general. The resolution further acknowledges that Parliament has a constitutional duty to investigate and hold the executive accountable for the manner in which it handles the crime problem in the city of Cape Town. The resolution mandates the Portfolio Committee on Police in terms of Rule 227, Sub 1, Sub E, to conduct a parliamentary inquiry into the causes of these violent gang-related crimes in Cape Town and the impact these have on society by reviewing government's response to this type of crime and identify the weaknesses and areas for potential improvement in the policing and prosecution of these crimes. Conducting public hearings with community safety structures, including registered neighborhood watches and community policing forums, to elicit community views on the genesis of and current factors contributed to the escalation of violent crimes in the city of Cape Town, as well as potential solutions to the crisis of violent crime in in Cape Town. It is further mandated to reviewing the legislative framework within which crime fighting is located and propose challenges, if any, that would enable the criminal justice system to better deal with the problem of violent crime in Cape Town, including but not limited to the extension of additional policing powers to Metropolitan Police Forces, conferring with the Portfolio Committee on Social Development and committees in the security cluster where necessary to formulate proposals for solutions to this problem and set the deadline by which the committee is to report to the House on 30 June 2026. Honourable members, based on the resolution, the committee is thus mandated to conduct a comprehensive assessment of gang-related violent crime in Cape Town and its impact on affected communities, review and evaluate the effectiveness of government responses, including policing, crime intelligence, investigation, and prosecution, identify weaknesses, gaps, and systemic constraints in the criminal justice response to gang-related violence, to conduct public hearings to elicit community views on the drivers, impact, and possible solutions to gang-related violence, review the legislative and policy framework governing crime prevention and prosecution and propose amendments where necessary, confer where necessary with Parliamentary Committee in the Crime Justice, Crime Prevention and Security, or JSPS, and Social Protection, Community and Human Development cluster departments. Exercise all relevant power available to the committee in terms of Rule 167 to fulfill its mandate, and then report to the NA on its findings and recommendations by no later than 30 June of this year. In terms of 4.3, it is stated that this inquiry is confined to gang-related crimes in Cape Town and does not constitute a general inquiry into the overall performance or national command structures of the SAPS. In 4.4, the inquiry is intended to provide a framework for replication and adaptation in other areas across the country experiencing gang-related violence and related forms of organized crime. In terms of the scope, honourable members, the inquiry will be conducted across the following analytical pillars. The first one would be crime dynamics and gang economies. Under this, we will have patterns and trends of gang-related violent crime, the role of illegal firearms, drugs, alcohol, extortion, and organized crime networks. Also, the mobility and geographic spread of gang activity. The second pillar will be policing capacity and operational response, including SAPS capacity, resourcing, development, and command arrangements in gang-affected areas. Secondly, the functioning and effectiveness of the anti-gang unit. And thirdly, the utilization of technology and data in preventing and investigating gang-related crime. The third pillar, honourable members, will be crime intelligence and investigative solutions. Under this, the committee will look at the adequacy, coordination, and utilization of crime intelligence-related gangs, firearm tracking, ballistic analysis, and intelligence-led operations. And thirdly, the detective capacity, case quality, and clearance rates. The next analytical pillar is the prosecution and criminal justice outcomes. The committee will look at the effectiveness of prosecution strategies, including POCA applications, conviction rates and case attrition, witness protection, challenges and court processes, constraints. Honourable members, then we will have the intergovernmental coordination, under which the committee will look at coordination between the JSPS and SPC, HD, cluster departments, and any other relevant institution. Another analytical pillar will be social drivers and community impact, under which the committee will look at social and economic drivers of gangsterism, including youth recruitment and trauma, also community police relations and trust, and then further the impact on schools, families, businesses, and social cohesion. The legislative and policy framework and analytical pillar will be on the review of the adequacy, coherence, and practical implementability of the applicable legislative framework and strategic policy direction, including the South African Police Service Act, the Prevention of Organised Crime Act, the Firearms Control Act, the Criminal Procedures Act, the Provincial and Municipal Safety Plans, the Integrated Crime and Violence Protection Strategy, which aligns and integrates the National Drug Master Plan and the NICOC strategies and National School Safety Framework. Also included is the White Paper on Policing and the White Paper on Safety and Security. In terms of geographic focus, the inquiry will be prioritizing gang-affected areas in the city of Cape Town, and the inquiry will focus on identified geographic areas with the intention that its findings and approaches may be applied where applicable in other areas across the country experiencing gang-related violence and related organized crime. In terms of the methodology, honourable members, it is suggested or proposed that we will conduct desktop research, data analysis, and comparative international review. It is also proposed that a parliamentary summit will be held, including engagements with targeted experts on gang-related violence, as well as community-based structures, such as community watches, community policing forums, youth, and faith-based organization. Honourable members, just as a note, this will be the key part of our public participation process, but I will get to that a bit later. In terms of the summit, it is proposed that it will be facilitated by an independent external expert with recognized expertise in gangs, gang culture, and related organized criminal activity. Also, on-site visits and station inspections, including anti-gang unit, crime intelligence, regional officers, the flying squad, and canine units will be inspected. We will also have briefings by related cluster departments of the JCPS and the SPC HD. It is also proposed that we have briefings by state institutions supporting democracy, such as the Commission for Gender Equality. Just as a note, honourable members, they submitted a comprehensive report on gangs and its relation to masculinity, especially in the Western Cape. So that will be included, or proposed to be included. Proposed briefings by the provincial government, metropolitan municipality, and local municipalities. And it's also proposed that we have joint meetings with the relevant committees within the JCPS and SPCHD clusters. Honorable members, in terms of public participation and transparency, as I mentioned earlier, Section 59 of the Constitution creates an obligation on the NA to facilitate public involvement in its committee processes. Now, while the rules of the NA do not dictate the way in which public participation must be conducted, it is of paramount importance that a reasonable opportunity is afforded to members of the public and all interested parties to be informed of the work of the committee and to have adequate say. As I mentioned, honorable members, it is proposed that the public participation process be undertaken through a summit format incorporating stakeholders, engagements, and public hearings, including inputs from targeted experts on gang-related violence, as well as community-based structures. As I mentioned, the summit is supposed to be facilitated by independent external expert with recognized expertise in gang culture, and related organized criminal activity. The public participation will form a central component of the inquiry and will be conducted in accordance with the rules of the NA and the Protection of Personal Information Act, POPIA. Meetings of the committee will be held in open and broadcasted on parliamentary TV and parliamentary social channels. Also, when the need arises, the committee will hear submissions from persons in a closed session in accordance with the Constitution and rules of the NA. In terms of the venue for the meetings, the committee meetings will be held physically within the parliamentary precinct or any other suitable venue to be determined by the chairperson, where necessary and for purposes of accommodating people who are unable to physically attend meetings, may be accommodated by attending the meeting virtually. In terms of the time frame, the committee will conduct the process within a reasonable time with a view to commencing in May this year and concluding by 30 June 2026. It being recorded that these time frames may be amended or extended by the decision of the Speaker or through a resolution of the National Assembly. The committee shall adopt a program framework timeously with all detail of the targets and milestones and the time frame within which they are to be achieved by the committee to ensure the timeliest completion of the committee's report to the NA. In terms of reporting, the report on the public hearings will be finalized and adopted by 5 August this year, following consideration of all submissions and deliberations arising from the hearings. The final report will be adopted by 30 June 2026 and thereafter submitted to the National Assembly for consideration and further processing. The reporting timeline may be revised subject to the adoption of a resolution by the National Assembly amending the reporting date. In terms of resources, honorable members, a dedicated team of officials, including committee secretary and assistant, researcher, content advisor, and legal advisor, will support the committee under the direction of the chairperson. The Public Education Office of Parliament will provide support to facilitate public participation as part of the inquiry. Just also to note here, honorable members, this will include a targeted educational structure to make the summit very much visible in communities, and to really ensure that affected communities are well aware of the summit. The Parliamentary Protection Services Division will be responsible for providing security during the summit held within Parliamentary Precinct, as well as during the site visits to identified areas. The summit will be facilitated by an independent external expert with recognized experience in gang culture, and related organized criminal activity. In terms of the site visits and conducting its on-site oversight, the committee will, or as proposed, the committee adopted a focused thematic approach structured around several strategic clustered visits. The oversight visits will prioritize systemic patterns and cross-cutting issues while retaining the flexibility to pursue station-specific matters and where evidence warranted further security. In terms of the committee's work program, it is divided into phases. Phase 1 will be the establishment and planning, which will happen in May this year, in which we are currently in the first phase, receiving briefings by the SAPS on capacitation and long-term strategy to combat gang-related violence and to consider and adopt the terms of reference. Phase 2 will revolve around public participation. According to the Justice Note, honorable members, the proposed dates are in the last week of June, which is set aside for parliamentary oversight. This will include hosting meetings in Parliament, meetings with the CPFs, neighborhood watchers, NGOs, youth and faith-based groups, and it will conduct on-site visits to identified areas. Phase 3 will be based on a joint sectoral engagement. The date, honorable members, is still set for June this year. However, anticipating the possible approval for an extension, this will happen in early August when Parliament returns from the July recess. We will have joint meetings with the departments in the JSPS cluster and SPCHD cluster and other relevant government structures. Just to note, based on the discussions that the committee had with the department, this will naturally also include IPID to look at specific cases of involvement of police officers in extortion and related crime. The committee will then consider responses received from departments and relevant government structures. And the last phase or phase 4 will be reporting, which will then, based on the proposed amendment in the reporting deadline, is scheduled for September, the end of September this year. It will include draft report with findings and legislative proposals and recommendations, committee deliberations, adoption of the final report, submission to the NA for consideration. I've noted below, as stated earlier, that the timeline will be revised subject to the adoption of a resolution by the National Assembly to amend the reporting date. The next section will be the adoption of the terms of reference, stating that the Portfolio Committee on Police adopted the terms of reference guiding the parliamentary inquiry into gang-related violence on a specific date in May. The proposed adoption date is on Friday, the 8th of May. However, members, it's just a suggestion and proposal to be decided by the committee members. Then we have the conclusion stating that these terms of reference give effect to the NA resolution of 25 November 2025, mandating the Portfolio Committee on Police to conduct a focused parliamentary inquiry into gang-related violent crime in Cape Town. And lastly, that the inquiry will be conducted in accordance with the Constitution, the rules of the National Assembly, and established principles of procedural fairness, evidence-based oversight, and public participation. Thanks, Chair. Honourable members, I submit.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Nicolette. I will then open the floor for comments or questions by the members. If I may have an indication of that, I've noted the Honourable Kola Barnard. As the Honourable Kola Barnard speaks, members are welcome to also raise their hands. Honourable Kola Barnard, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Chair. The only thing I would ask, having sat through 9 months of the ad hoc committee with you and many on this committee, is that we make sure that we're not rushed. The ad hoc is now applied for, is it the 5th extension? I don't know, many extensions. So whatever we think the deadline should be, I think must be extended immediately, because we can't go back and back and back and back to the National Assembly saying, oh, actually, we need another month, we need another 3 months. So let us rather deliver early than have to beg for an extension. I think it can be quite embarrassing. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Kola Barnard. Honourable Paulson.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, it's we seem to be heavy reliant on SAPS for whatever it is we want to achieve. And, there's supposed to be a whole of government approach to this. And we seem to be once again missing out in this plan on and there's so many deliverables that involve SAPS. SAPS is key to all of this. I mean, but what about the other departments, social development and all of those mentioned in the matrix in the previous presentation? And then also, we also need to know within SAPS, as of this year, there are 35 anti-gang unit members who are under criminal investigation. 45 are facing internal disciplinary proceedings. And, I'm concerned about the anti-gang unit's vulnerability to corruption and collusion. within the very gangs that they are tasked to dismantle. And then I'd also like to know, what is the percentage of the Western Cape's anti-gang unit's total staff complement in terms of those 80 members under investigation? And also, what lifestyle and firearm audits are being conducted in the anti-gang unit amongst those officers? We need to know that we are dealing with people who are clean here, that are not prone to corruption themselves, because that is a major problem in our policing, and we need to root out the corruption within the police. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Paulson. Are there any other members that would like to make a contribution regarding the terms of reference? Nicolette, is there something specific that you would like to confirm or ask or give feedback on in terms of what was commented by the Honourable Carla Barnard and the Honourable Paulson?
Gee, thank you very much. In terms of what Honourable Carla Barnard indicated regarding the successive and extensive extensions given to the ad hoc committee investigating the allegations made by Lieutenant General Makunazi, I do agree that the committee should give sufficient consideration to have really a opportunity to conduct the inquiry within a good time frame. And upon that, I would want to suggest that members maybe deliberate and decide on whether the extension towards September this year. And Chair, honourable members, the only reason why I suggest September is that the calculation from the calculation based on the original or the NA resolution provided 6 months for the committee to conduct its business. Chair, and the other consideration that should be given in terms of the time frame would be that in October, we will prioritize the annual reports and the writing of the BRRR reports. So that will basically be prioritized during the third quarter. And then the fourth quarter will be significantly impacted by the local government elections. So in saying that, Chair, the committee could consider a further or a later deadline. And to touch on what Honourable Paulson indicated, I definitely agree that the terms of reference must focus on the specific capacitation on gang-related anti-gang units, apologies, and that these members are really, so to say, clean, and that counterintelligence really do have a look at the members that are on the units, and that the committee, the terms of reference does refer to it, but we must make that pertinently clear that, the ethics of these members must be scrutinized and make sure that their lifestyle audits are done and clearance certificates are done regardless of the rank occupied by the officers attached to the anti-gang units. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Nicolette. Honourable Garner.
Thanks very much, Chair, and apologies for not raising my hand earlier. I think one of the considerations, especially as we extend the date, it's the term of Parliament will be significantly altered now that we've got the election year for 2026. So we need to work around that. So find a way to prioritize this, but work within the parliamentary program, because one of the challenges that we don't want to get into, it's a situation where members are not available because we're trying to have the inquiry outside of the parliamentary program. My general approach to the actual terms, I think they are broad enough, and you want the terms to be broad because you don't know what you are going to encounter when you start peeling some of the evidence that will be coming up, and we have to be realistically. With the changes in the program, do I think the end of September it's possible? It might be difficult unless we kind of ask a two-part reporting period. So we do the work until the end of September, submit an interim report, whilst we continue to then finalize after on the other side of the election, so that you don't have the pressures of people not being available. So if that is an option that can be considered, then we need to look at that, because otherwise, if we rush ourselves, we are not going to do full justice on this particular matter. And I think the point was raised around the number of extensions that even the ad hoc committee encountered. We rather do the good job properly rather than rush ourselves. So if the two, let's call it two kind of targets can be considered, I will advocate that we consider that. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Ghana. I think the suggestion that we have is that we will also then circulate the draft terms of reference to the members. So as to if something does come up with any of the honourable members, they have an opportunity to still comment and send it back to Nicolette, from where we can then ensure that as much as possible of the suggestions that are relevant are incorporated for discussion, and then to just confirm it along with the whole committee. Nicolette.
Chair, sorry, and thank you for the opportunity. Chair, I want to just indicate and say that the proposal made by Honourable Ghana is very realistic, and I want to say a constructive proposal that we include specifically in the draft or in the actual terms of reference, that we will have a dual reporting framework, in that at the end of September we will have an interim report and then move forward into into 2027. Members, I also want to just note that the acting Minister of Police has tabled letters to the Speaker of the NA and the Chairperson of the NCOP, stating that the intention to submit the SAPS amendment bill to Parliament soon. However, a date has not been given, and this will naturally have a significant impact on the committee's program, and then obviously also the the gang violence inquiry. However, there's no problem with doing it, at the same time. But yeah, I just want to make members aware of that situation. But yeah, just to say I think Honorable Ghana's proposal is very constructive. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Nicolette, and again, thank you, Honourable Ghana. Colleagues, we are then at the end of the agenda for today. But before I close the meeting, we will then do the relevant amendments or add suggestions that we've already agreed on during today's discussion, from where Nicolette and Babalwa will then circulate the draft terms of reference to all of the members on the committee. You're then welcome to comment, from where we will then do the relevant work to ensure that discussion can be held for that to be finalized. I want to just thank all the members for today, for the way that the questions were asked, and that it was such a constructive meeting, as we slowly but surely kick off finally with the gang violence inquiry that we've been waiting for quite some time. With that, the meeting is closed. Good luck with the rest of the day, and see you soon.